just because you do have to register, I think. So
Mm,
it takes a minute or so just to get the registration thing completed.
mm,
So let's give folks like
yes.
yeah, let's
Yeah,
give
and
folks a
also,
mhm,
mm, yeah, we have a virtual lab on the Meetup and also on the YouTube and LinkedIn. So there will be different resources
right,
the audience come from, and if the audience come from different platform, and I will
right,
post questions because sometimes they may have questions, and also uh, most of the audience maybe they just join the events like a few minutes before we start. I think that's
right.
like let's wait for until like 12:35 to allow more
Sure.
people. Yeah.
Yep, no problem. No problem. In the meantime, if you folks are interested, I am putting up the QR code for our uh, our Discord server. So a lot of folks are asking about how to get in touch with the WeCloud team, but also with the WeCloud community. On the Discord server itself, I think there's like hundreds of folks who are active there. So feel free to join the WeCloud Discord server. Um, I'm usually on Slack as well as Discord. So we do monitor those servers as well. But yeah, so let's give folks maybe 2 more minutes and then we'll get going. Like Adam mentioned, there are folks who are going to be watching this through different channels. So just because they're not in the Zoom room, it doesn't mean that there aren't folks watching on other channels as well. But just means you folks get to ask the live questions, whereas other folks are either going to watch the recorded sessions or they might be able to leave us questions through the other channels, and we'll get to those questions probably sometime after this session when we can. I'm assuming everyone can hear me clearly, uh, and I'm assuming folks can see my slides. Uh, Perfect. So got some thumbs up. That's reassuring. All right, 1 more minute, and then let's get going. Just curious, whoever's here, and you want to participate, where are you folks joining in from? Like country, continent, region? Where are you folks connecting from? And if you don't want to open up your mic, feel free to type in the chat box. All right, we got someone from New York. So I'm from the Toronto. Oh, okay. So a few New York folks. I'm from the Toronto area, so I'm a big fan of hockey. I'm watching not all the games, but I'm watching highlights and stuff. So watching the Rangers and Florida series highlights and stuff. LA, okay, okay. They were in the first round. BC, Canada. Wow. Okay, so we got folks who had teams from the playoffs. Okay, it's very interesting. So we got folks from New York, we got the Rangers, we got folks from LA at their LA Kings, and then someone from British Columbia. Yeah, Vancouver Canucks did very well in my opinion. A lot of upside to the team. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Oh, I think New York's doing performed pretty great in this series. I mean, Florida's definitely a hard team to beat, so it'll be very exciting. I think it's definitely going to go to 7 games in both series for the remaining teams. All right. Anyway, we're
now connected to Niet's MacBook Pro.
Thanks, Alexa. It's weird. All right, folks. Let's get started. It's already 12:36, 12:35, 12:36. So I guess I have a few slides to introduce WeCloud, but so this session is the WeCloud Lunch and Learn. Ask me anything, getting started with DevOps and/or MLOps. I'm the DevOps program manager here at WeCloud, but because DevOps also plays a part in machine learning and AI engineering, so I'll speak briefly about the MLOps components in the AI and machine learning engineering program at WeCloud as well. But we do have a separate program manager for the AI and machine learning engineering program. So they will also have their own separate lunch and learn sessions as well. So if you're primarily interested in MLOps and more machine learning AI, I encourage you to attend those sessions. So Adam, before I get into some of the intro slides for WeCloud, did you want to just start off the session? Like, how do you usually kick off these lunch and learn sessions? Adam, are you still there? Hello? Adam, you're on mute, by the way, if you don't. If not, then I'll just continue. Maybe Adam stepped out from the room or whatever. But so Adam is the manager across all the courses and programs here at WeCloudData, and specifically, I'm helping support and manage the DevOps program. But maybe when Adam comes back, he'll give you a high level of across the all the programs and the courses at WeCloud. Okay, so for the folks who joined just now, I put up a QR code in case you want to join the Discord server. And I was just mentioning to the folks that we have Slack and Discord where we're active and answering questions. And folks, when you join the Discord server, there's going to be links and an easy way to find previous sessions like this. So feel free to join the Discord server to get announcements about future sessions like this as well. It's a great way to stay connected and find more events like this. Adam mentioned earlier that apparently we have WeCloud events almost every day, including these lunch and learns or AMAs, as well as workshop sessions where it's more hands-on and you'll be actually doing coding with some of our instructors and developers at WeCloud. Okay. So before we get into some of the slides and info I wanted to communicate in terms of the WeCloud program, I want to set up sort of the context and the backdrop here regarding DevOps in particular, but also some of the MLOps things. Like I mentioned, MLOps is it's its own beast, but here at WeCloud we teach the MLOps primarily in the AI and machine learning program. So I'll just touch briefly on that, but I'll focus more on the DevOps generically as a whole. Before I get into that though, I want to set up the context here. And some of you folks probably might come from IT, might come from development, might come from infrastructure. Some folks might come from other areas and domains outside of tech and IT. And that's usually the folks who do come to WeCloud and apply or enroll in our courses and programs. They're going through career switches, for example. But just to sort of get everyone on the same page, regardless of what your background is, I think it's quite remarkable where we are today in terms of technology, in terms of the industry, in terms of how fast at the pace at which we're moving. And of course, the buzzwords ChatGPT, AI, chatbots, things like that have taken the world by storm. But the one of the reasons why I have this image up here is because, interestingly, a lot of the things that we're interacting with or we're dealing with and we're consuming, we don't actually see unless you're the data center engineers. You don't see where all this is happening, but a lot of this is actually happening in these data centers, right, across the globe. Whether it's the cloud, public cloud providers, or whether it's a company or a business's private data centers, it's somewhere out there, and they have all these racks and servers connected, and just running massive amounts of workloads that are generating value for businesses, but also for regular consumers like ourselves when we use and interact with all these machine learning models, all these AI applications. It's quite remarkable. So all of that is happening for the most part in these enclaves of data centers, and all these workloads are being crunched in these data centers. So more and more, it seems like our world and how we interact with the world is sort of, this is the backdrop, or this is the where all of that is happening. So it's quite remarkable when you think about it. It's like all this stuff, this digital revolution or transformation, it kind of comes back to these racks of servers in these remote locations that most of us have probably not have access to or even seen live in person. This is an interesting quote. I think a few years back, this was at, I believe, an automotive convention for car manufacturers. One of the journalists, or one of the reporters, who was just going around, asking a lot of these key folks at this convention what their thoughts were, just in general. And the president of Toyota, at the time when they were answering this, a reporter was probably asking, like, what's the next step, or what are you folks thinking about? And they answered, our competitors no longer just make cars. Companies like Google, Apple, and even Facebook are what I think about at night. Now, when you hear this from a traditional car manufacturing company, and someone that high in the ranks, someone like Akio, it's quite striking. Think about this: a car manufacturing company president is saying that internet and software companies like Google, Apple, and Facebook seems like what their competitors are, or who they think their competitors are. That's quite striking. So it's basically what it's saying, or what you can take from this, and at least what I'm taking from this, is that traditional, or what we think as traditional companies, especially like manufacturing companies and car companies, now are competing in a digital space. It's no longer just manufacturing or physical factories, things like that. Now it's they're competing in digital factory space. They're competing against other digital companies and other internet companies and other software companies. So it's really, really becoming more and more digital, and more everything is now somehow touching code, right? So it's almost like everything is code. Everything is going to be connected and wired through software and through code. And it's becoming more and more true. So especially now with the push and the hype that we're getting with AI, it's not just coding anymore, but now it seems like there's going to be AI agents embedded everywhere in the world we live. And later I'll show a slide with Apple's the new Vision device that they have. AI agents and code and software is not going to be just on huge physical devices, but now it's going to be augmenting our everyday lives. So when you walk around, on the streets, when you go inside a store, you might have these small glasses with AI capabilities and a lot of digital content and data, like just at your fingertips, and allows you to interact with the world in a way that we haven't seen before or haven't really anticipated at the pace at which it's going. So wouldn't be surprising in a few years if a lot of folks are going to be just working in their day-to-day lives, but also in their personal lives with interacting with AI or other digital devices in a way that we haven't seen before. So really software is eating the world, and at a pace that is quite unprecedented. And now, so having said that, we're starting to recognize and understand the importance of, if we haven't already, the importance of digital products and services and software and code. How does that journey look like from an idea to an actual digital product or service? Because again, we're talking about software and code here, and this is very generic. But again, I want to set the context and the backdrop here so that we understand, why are we talking about DevOps and MLOps today? Why are we talking about having this as something that is part of the norm in terms of how business is done? So let's think about a typical digital product journey. And again, this is going to differ depending on the products and the services that the business creates and sells. But in general, we can think of this as a very generic framework and journey that the products go through. So you have a business initiative or an idea. You have a product team that then takes that idea and tries to turn it into reality and implement it. You then have to code and develop, those features for that product. You then ship and deploy, of course, to production, and then you have your digital product and service that is available and that can be consumed by your customers, your clients, whether that's internal business users or external consumers and customers. And out of these steps, for the most part, one of the biggest challenges is actually the ship and deploy stage. For a lot of development and how the development process happens, the development teams and developers will usually set up their own development environment and start coding away, on their local environment, on their laptops, on their local computers. But especially for more complex products and teams, and especially larger teams and multiple teams, it becomes very, very difficult to get the code and the software that these teams create locally, for example, unify all that code and commits and new features, and then ship and deploy correctly and with little error to no error, although no error is very rare, into a production environment where, again, it can be consumed by your customers. So think of the App Store. When the apps are available on the App Store, that is the production environment where consumers and customers can go and download that app for their own use. Oh, Vision Pro, right? Okay, so one thing that I wanted to bring up is the Apple Vision Pro, which I think is just very, very cool in terms of where we're going to see this take flight in the next couple of years as well. But the Vision Pro is a very, very complex product and device, as you can imagine. But I'm simplifying this, but let's break this down into hardware and software. And so naturally, hardware is going to require you to have the requirements to create a physical hardware so that it provides the hardware and the compute and all the necessary components so that you can install and start running your software. And then the software itself is another product and aspect component of this product itself. So as a whole, this product has many components, including hardware components and software components. Now, when they launch this product and sell it in stores, they got to have obviously hardware and software all ready to go. So when you think of the hardware, it's going to have whatever physical factory that creates these physical components. They got to have a planned stage. They got to build the hardware. They got to release it, and naturally after having the hardware produced, they still got to monitor, make sure that the hardware component, the physical components still work as expected and at a very high quality level. Software is true as well. Just having the hardware component by itself without the software doesn't make this product valuable anymore. And conversely, if you just have software without the appropriate hardware components, this product as a unified whole is incomplete. So both hardware and software must be there, must be available, must be produced at the highest quality and level, integrated and released as a whole, as one unified product. Okay. And similarly, just like you have a physical factory where you have the different components in an assembly line produced at very specifications, and with these plan, build, release stages, the software itself as well can have its own digital factory where you have different steps of the software lifecycle and different phases and stages of the software being built. And you'll have your plan, your build, your release, and your monitor stages, just to again make sure that the software is working as expected at the highest quality possible and integrated as a whole with your hardware. So it comes as one unified product. Okay, so with that in mind, as you can appreciate, if your physical factory that's producing this hardware is very fast or very agile, goes and produces many of the hardware pieces, but your software component or your software team is not able to keep pace with the speed at which the hardware is being produced, then you can't release the product by whatever launch deadline that you had in place, and it can cause the product launch and the product itself to fail quite frankly. So your software piece has to keep up with the pace of the hardware piece. And for the most part, the factories, when we think of factories, physical factories, assembly lines, things like that, that's had a very rich history, and it's been more so perfected in terms of the processes and the stages in which you produce physical items and components. Digital factories with software is catching up and has to match that speed, especially now with a lot of products having software and code, like we talked about earlier with the car example. Toyota and electrical vehicles now having the physical components of a car. Just as important are the software and the code components of those cars and whatever other products that we see in the future that have embedded software and code with it. So the software really has to match the speed of release and production that hardware and physical products are already competent at. So DevOps is one of those tools and aspects that can help with this this need for agility and speed to release software at the pace and the scale that we're really starting to see in the world, and it becomes more and more important as we move forward with all the types of innovation that we see in the world today. In terms of DevOps job skill sets, we do get asked these questions a lot as well when it comes to DevOps. So with DevOps, and you'll learn this throughout the program, but also in subsequent info sessions we'll have, which we'll have more focus topics here. But just to again set up the context here, in terms of DevOps, it's a very wide-ranging set of skills. Probably one of the more challenging, I'd say, in tech and IT, just because of the plethora of skills that DevOps engineers are sort of asked to have or at least be competent in. You don't have to specialize and be an expert in every single skill that you see sort of in these charts or in articles that are mentioning what DevOps engineers use in terms of skill sets. But there are a few key ones that you definitely want to become competent in, and some that you want to specialize more in, which gives you better command of the task and the job responsibilities that you'll need. But this is just a glimpse at some of that. So here I'm showing the I think this is okay. So this from 2022. It's probably going to be very, very similar now. So this was from 2 years back, but here this from Zipia, and they provide information and data regarding job market skills, etc. Here are some of the top 10, for example, when they were surveying DevOps engineers across different industries. Looking when I took a glance at this, looks pretty accurate. Of course, there's within each one, there's you could break it down even more. For example, infrastructure, that's very vague and generic. So within that, you could have other infrastructure automation tools. Here you don't see it, but Terraform would fall under that. I would say in infrastructure and infrastructure automation tools. But so just listing off some of these here: Python, Docker, Jenkins, Git, Linux, Ansible, Kubernetes, CI/CD, Java. Kubernetes for sure. It's one of the most in demand, I'd say, DevOps skill sets and tools. And Kubernetes is so when they refer to Kubernetes, it could probably be just vanilla Kubernetes, but also distributions of Kubernetes like Red Hat OpenShift or SUSE Rancher, for example. But these are just some common skill sets that are going to be requested or asked for, especially if you're going to go into DevOps engineering and looking for jobs there. And this is the tooling aspect, not surprisingly. But when we think about other skills and requirements, it's not too different from other job positions or titles. Like, it's not just about the hard skills and tooling. You're going to need some, especially with DevOps engineering, I'd say more so than some of the other positions and roles, just because with DevOps, I mean, the whole point here, one of the most important points here is you're trying to liaise between traditional dev and ops teams and really trying to unify that whole process and help in increasing the agility and and the speed of release of software and code. So you're really interacting with a lot of teams across the organization, and hopefully, if done correctly, it becomes less of a sort of a title role, but something that the whole organization embraces. That DevOps mindset, right? So have some ability to influence others, leadership qualities makes sense. Having the ability to understand products end to end. Again, if we're talking about digital products and services and what you're trying to release as a product, you really have to understand the audience and who your customers are. What's the customer journey look like for the product, right? So a little bit of that product management, product owner type of skill sets to understand why you're even having a DevOps pipeline, CI/CD pipeline. Why is this being released in, say, Kubernetes platform as opposed to another platform? And working with your teams to make sure that whatever features you're building makes sense for, again, that product or those products, product groups as a whole. Communications very important, especially in DevOps. I think it's important everywhere in every single job, but especially in DevOps, again, having to help liaise between multiple teams and getting everyone under the same vision and the same goals for the products that you're trying to deliver. Understanding use cases of DevOps, because again, with DevOps, because it's so broad and all-encompassing, the ability to really isolate specific business use cases or product use cases and communicating that to management, the business stakeholders, helping them understand specific use cases for that can really help move the projects forward, but also get support from stakeholders. So get stakeholder support and allow for an understanding of the process, the people, the tooling that comes with this. So again, use cases, the ability to identify use cases, the ability to put use cases together, and either present or communicate that to stakeholders so they understand, what the important factors are. And then when you have to have trade-offs, if you understand your use case very well, then you can choose, for example, tech stacks or architectures that make sense for that product and that use case. Knowing, different trade-offs that happen in different use cases. Okay. And also with DevOps and MLOps, having the ability to see and visualize, and it's tied to use cases, but the ability to really visualize end-to-end how these processes and these projects are developed and completed from the idea all the way to the final product in production. But then also afterwards, like continuously improving and monitoring, and features that need to be developed in subsequent phases or subsequent milestones is important as well. And having mentioned all those skill sets, I want to segue into how the DevOps program can help in your journey into DevOps. And again, the audience here, or at least the way we envision it, are folks who want to transition, say, into DevOps, either from a more narrow background, say in infrastructure, or you coming from as a software developer, but you want to upskill and move into DevOps. Also for folks who maybe come from a non-traditional IT or tech background. Of course, your journey is going to look a little bit different from your peers, depending on where you're coming from. But the idea is it's for those folks who believe that DevOps is the right path for them moving forward in their career. Naturally, if you're already a DevOps engineer, or you're already strong in DevOps, then you're probably not looking to join a program or a course in DevOps. So again, it's geared towards those folks who who are looking to transition in and maybe have a career transition or a career change. This is not a comprehensive roadmap, but what I found is that previously when I got too low level or too deep with too many components of the roadmap, it really confused and overwhelmed folks. So I kind of dialed it back, and I wanted to really bring up the essence. So as you folks, feel free to ask questions as well. As you folks have questions, it kind of gives a better framework to discuss and have conversations about it. Like if you have like 1,000 boxes here, like it just gives you headaches. But essentially, the way I see this roadmap for folks who are transitioning in or want to upskill, specifically in DevOps, is you're entering here at this entry point here, and there's usually 4 major pillars in cloud and DevOps to get it to upskill here. There's application development. Naturally, you have to understand how applications are built and developed. There's cloud components, there's Linux, and there's IT fundamentals, networking being very, very important in DevOps. And from there, cloud and Linux combine for the most part for infrastructure automation. A lot of this is really about configuration and working with, say, YAML files. If you're doing like Terraform, or if you're using something like Pulumi, then you'll be using more like SDK, software development kits, and having some sort of programming language like Python, TypeScript, or will help you quite a bunch with these infrastructure automation tools. The other important path or stream within DevOps is microservices. Naturally, this idea about breaking huge monolithic applications down into microservices, it's quite popular architecture these days in a lot of production systems. So when you're joining those teams, you want to have an understanding of microservices so that you can help maintain, operationalize, or even build new projects in the cloud native environment. Within microservices, typically there are 2 popular ways to do this, set this up. You can do it with serverless technologies like AWS Lambda, Azure Functions, API Gateway, and you can also use containers. Now, serverless technologies can also use container images, but when I'm talking about containers here, I'm talking about the focus in terms of the running and operationalizing your applications as containers. So with, say, Docker and Kubernetes as your container orchestration. Service mesh is not restricted to container systems. You can also use service mesh with virtual machines and legacy systems as well. But for the most part, it's designed and really shines in microservices and container environments. Now, I added LLM ops here in the machine learning domain as an example here to show that even though DevOps, is generic for any type of industry, domain, or topic, but you can specialize it further in a field like, say, LLMs or LLM applications, machine learning, and AI. So you can combine practices from DevOps to accelerate your development in, say, AI applications. Okay, and other very important pillars include CI/CD, GitOps, security within DevOps as well. And a lot of folks are interested in certification. So I'm just giving one example here. Of course, there's quite a ton out there, but the certified Kubernetes security specialization from the Linux Foundation is a popular one as well, in addition to CKA and CKAD. Okay. And the DevOps curriculum goes through a bunch of tools. Now, obviously, we all understand that DevOps is not just about the tooling. You got the people, the process, etc. But what most people want to get out of a course and a curriculum is the ability to start using the tools right away, so that once they start their work or their day-to-day work, and they get integrated and onboarded onto their future jobs, they're able to use the tools to get the job done. So naturally, one of the things that we do teach heavily and you get practice with are using some popular tools across the DevOps tech stack. Now, of course, tooling, especially tooling, changes over time. So another thing you have to understand is that what you want to understand is the principles and the fundamental concepts that the tools use, so that even if you have to switch to another tool, or in the future these tools evolve over time, you still understand the principles and the purpose on why these tools are being used. So don't use the tools for the tool's sake, just for the sake of using the tools, but you understand when and where and why it's being used, right? Because if you only have a hammer, pretty much everything looks like a nail. So make sure you use it in the correct context. Now, I mentioned the sort of the entry point and some of the things you want to start getting skilled up in as you go down DevOps, but some of the prerequisites that will definitely help you in that process include IT fundamentals, like I mentioned, especially networking. There's a lot of ports and port forwarding networking concepts used in DevOps. Linux fundamentals, containers are evolved on top of the Linux kernel. So you want to understand Linux kernel, Linux, how to navigate around a Linux environment. Cloud web servers are primarily Linux-based as well. Not only Linux-based, but primarily are. A lot of them in the wild are Linux servers. Coding fundamentals, without a doubt, as you go down DevOps and MLOps, you're going to be required to do a lot of coding. So just make sure that you at least have some basics in coding in place under your belt so that you feel comfortable in that kind of setting, okay? Now, the DevOps program itself is now primarily self-paced. We used to have a live, but just because we want to make sure we focus our resources in different projects and different business priorities, we're shifting it primarily to DevOps self-paced. So essentially, the training, learning the concepts, things are you can do at your own pace, self-paced. The content includes lessons and labs, projects. You'll be working on class projects as well throughout that journey. You have learning support, which is a very important element in this, and I'll talk about that in a bit later as well, through Slack and Discord. You have one-on-one mentoring as well throughout the weeks, and you have also office hours throughout the different weeks as well, okay? And if Adam is still here, maybe Adam can help put the link for the DevOps self-paced in the chat, but I can also do that once I've gone through these slides as well. Okay, so we mentioned that there is an MLOps component, which in the AI and ML engineering, which is related to DevOps. That's why we're gonna quickly touch on it here. But our AI ML engineering program has quite a sophisticated roadmap in itself. At the bottom, you have some of the AI fundamentals that branch out into at least two pillars in LLM and computer vision. You do quite a bit of AWS cloud services to enable and prepare you in, for example, the large language models vertical. And these are just some of the components of it. Feel free to attend future AI and ML sessions if you want to dig deeper into the AI and machine learning components of and courses here. But just wanted to show this to have completeness when I talk a little bit about the MLOps components and then computer vision as well. But here, as you can see down here, some of the items that I showed in the DevOps, you see it shows up actually in MLOps as well. So things like understanding how APIs work and working with APIs, Git for source code version control, Linux, I mentioned Linux, Docker, containers, okay? You have infrastructure, serverless, Lambda, Kubernetes, Ray-serve. And so some of these are not specific to DevOps, but more so from machine learning, for example. But so you have to combine, if you're going to go down the path of MLOps, quite a bit from the machine learning and AI world with DevOps. So MLOps is quite sophisticated in that sense, in that there's quite a bit of skills that you bring in from different domains and topics, and there's overlap between DevOps here and AI and machine learning. Okay. So AI machine learning also has a self-paced program. Similar to DevOps, the structure is pretty much the same. The content, of course, is different in itself in terms of the topics that you learn. But with ML and AI engineering, there's also a live version of the course. So whereas self-paced is, you go at your own pace whenever you have the time, for example, to do the lessons. With the live, there are specific days when the instructors will have live lessons, and the mentors and the TAs will have their live labs and tutorials as well. But that's for the live version of ML and AI engineering. It's a 6-month time window that the program takes place in. And so these are some of the building blocks for that program. And then you also get mentorship as well in terms of career mentorship. Okay. So this would be a typical journey for the courses here. You have the training, and if you're doing the self-paced version of this, this you stretch it for as long as you want. But this would be for say one of the courses or programs that are 3 months. And for the full-time programs, they usually have the projects outside of class projects included, and also the career components as well. Okay, for the part-time ones, it's kind of stretched out because it's not every single day. Usually it's twice a week, but similar to the full-time live courses and programs, you can also have the projects and the career mentoring as well. Yeah. So this is just showing how the machine learning AI fits in the stack here. Okay. And these are just some of the detailed components and content of the topics, but we'll put this. You can find this on the website as well. I do want to leave time for questions as well. This session is meant for that, but wanted to give you guys the backdrop and the context, because we do find sometimes folks when they join this session, they actually do ask some very common questions that a few slides will probably answer quite a lot of questions for common questions for a lot of folks. So in terms of the journey, usually you have the training part, which again is trying to build up your skills. Projects, whether it's class projects or outside of class projects, you're building up that experience in the portfolio. And then, of course, you have that career and job hunting component of your journey as folks are seeking out jobs. Okay, so just depending on how you're doing this, you might accelerate some of these components, and you can set that up with your program or course advisors, and they can help you figure out what's the best option for you. And this is just showing you how usually these components and parts kind of space out in terms of a timeline. For the live programs and courses, there are as part of the package, you get these group career sessions at least twice a month, where career mentors will give training sessions on how to create a resume, how to do interviews, etc. And then you have these career mentoring sessions throughout once you're done the program as well. Okay, and these I think you just schedule whenever the scheduling works out for you and your mentor. Right, so weekly learning mentoring. And the learning support is an important factor for why folks choose, say, a program or a course like ours. You do have quite a lot of channels for support, and it doesn't have to always be live support. There's asynchronous support. Leave a message on Slack, Discord, and folks will get back to you if it's not part of an allotted time slot, like a career workshop or one-on-one career mentoring. So it doesn't always have to be live. It can be asynchronous and offline as well. Okay, and this is just a typical, for example, resume or profile that you'd have on LinkedIn, and the point is to tailor it to your strengths and really target the job market. And these are just some of the questions that career workshops help the mentees try to answer and resolve. Okay. And there's also interview prep sessions as well, where the mentors and the group career workshops will help you try to understand how to get through those interview sessions as well. And again, the mentoring is quite important. Helps get you past those blocks maybe that you sometimes encounter in your job and career search, and kind of helps you to put your learning and your projects in perspective, and provide you with just general career advice as well. Okay. All right. So hopefully with what I've mentioned up to now, it's maybe answered a few questions already that maybe you had coming into this session, and maybe now I'll open up to the rest of you folks. If there's anything that I went through that still didn't answer your questions, or there's something that maybe I didn't even discuss, happy to try to answer some of those questions. I might not have all the answers, but I'll definitely give a shot. If anyone wants to open their mic, or even throw your questions on the chat if you don't feel like opening up the mic. But let me just go through some of these questions here. Haven't you have any monitoring tools in learning roadmap? So we go through Prometheus and Grafana for sure for the monitoring tools. Now, observability is a huge topic in its own right. So with observability, it's actually just like DevOps, it's not just about the tooling. It's really, you have to combine the mindset, the approach, the frameworks with the toolings. But in terms of tooling within observability, for monitoring, like metrics, Prometheus is very, very popular, and the visualizing that is Grafana. For distributed tracing, within the service mesh section, you learn about Kiali in using it with Istio service mesh, and Kiali does have built-in distributed tracing techniques in itself. Another popular tool is Jaeger for distributed tracing. For logging, there's FluentD, but you can also use, for example, Grafana's Loki to help with the logging. And Yoki, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana are also very popular tools. Now the ELK is also very heavily used in the AI and the chatbot space as well. For AI and machine learning, yes, you get Shirang Gineth, are you asking what are popular industry certifications for AI and ML, or are you asking that if you complete the WeCloud program in AI and ML, whether you get a certificate?
Hey, Ned. Yeah, I'm actually asking both. So in AI ML, you have a professional certificate, right, from Google or from cloud version of whatever it is. Or I'm also asking another question regarding what certification also we get along with the completion of this course. Yeah.
Oh, this course, yeah. So in this course, when you complete the AI machine learning, you get the WeCloud AI machine learning certificate of completion for the course, but you don't get a separate certification like the Google AI certification, or I know TensorFlow and TensorFlow also has their
right, yeah,
their thing, yeah. So that's separate, but when you take the course, it does help you get the knowledge that you need. I would recommend though, if you're going after those specific certifications, you should supplement and augment your learning with very specific certification materials. The reason is because for the DevOps, we get similar questions and inquiries. Like they ask, if I take the DevOps course or program from WeCloud, is that enough for me to then just walk in a Linux Foundation certified Kubernetes administrator certification exam? No, it's not enough. I definitely recommend, in addition to what you'll be learning in the program, to supplement your learning with very specific certification materials. The reason is because these certifications have a very, very specific or unique way they test for your knowledge and your skills and capabilities, and different ones have different types of requirements and scenarios. So another example is AWS Solutions Architect Associate certificate. So a lot of people who are thinking of joining the program ask, if I take your program and go through your cloud engineering components, is that enough for me to sit in on the AWS Solutions Architect Associate? No, it's not enough. And the reason is because on the AWS exam, they go a little bit deeper in terms of all the different areas that we don't have enough time to cover in the program. And the different certifications, the way they set it up is different. So the AWS is all, the AWS Solutions Architect Associate is all multiple choice, whereas the Certified Kubernetes Administrator or the Certified Kubernetes Application Developer from Linux Foundation is a hands-on simulator exam. So it's not multiple choice. They're going to ask you to do something, and it's going to be a use case or problem-based scenario, and then you have to write Kubernetes specific command line commands that you execute, and then they check for the results that have been outputted to see if you were able to solve those problems. So those different certifications have different requirements, and we're not able to cover enough of in the program to go through in depth of all of these certifications. So I definitely recommend you supplement some of that certification stuff with certification specific materials. And there are resources out there, and we can help you, find the correct ones, the right ones to supplement and augment what you've already learned. So as an example, I have helped mentor folks who take the DevOps program, and while they're taking the DevOps program, they get the Kubernetes certifications. So, but that's because we'll be like, okay, well, you've already learned this from the program, spend 4 weeks to supplement it with these very specific materials and content. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Shiva? Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And just curious, Shira, what's your background, or what's the context that you're coming from?
I'm a cloud engineer, currently a cloud engineer. Yeah, in a Ford company from almost 6 years. So
Okay.
just I'm looking for AI and machine learning. Yeah, just wanted
Yeah.
my career.
And in terms of the cloud services that you've been working with, have you had a chance to work like SageMaker or more of the machine learning track services like Bedrock?
No, I used to deploy the applications and all, but I never had time to work on those. Yeah, the Sage.
Yeah. So if you join the AI machine learning program at WeCloud, you'll be working with services specifically designed for those use cases, like using Bedrock and SageMaker, for example, and then the serverless stack with API Gateway and Lambda, and seeing how it all connects specifically to deploy those applications specific to it.
Okay. That's why I
Yeah.
was like just asking like any certifications that we can do for AML, so I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, when you complete this, you'll get the WeCloud certification. And just depending on your sort of what your goals are and your objectives are, it might be something where the advisor or the mentor might suggest, also grab the we call it the TensorFlow certification as well, the TensorFlow developer, because combined, that might be good enough to really make yourself attractive to hiring managers in the space. It's a very quickly, I have to say, it's a very quickly evolving space. I mean, like as an example, when we're building out applications with LangChain, I mean, the amount of times this thing breaks, like after only 2 weeks or whatever, of using certain libraries, versions, and dependencies is remarkable how fast they're going with these things. So, and I mean, like with ChatGPT, like they had what's that 4.0 or whatever the other day, and now they have like 4.0 Edu or something, like specifically just for education use cases. It's just these models are it's flying fast. So, but like I mentioned, one of my recommendation would be think about the principles, think about the foundational elements, the fundamentals, because no matter what tools change or how this changes, right? You always have your
Exactly.
computer science and technology foundations, and you can see it, like distributed systems or even Linux things. Linux came out in the 90s, but pre-Linux, the Unix foundations came out in the 70s. We're still using Unix and Linux tools from 30-40 years ago. It hasn't changed, like grep. I mean, like when was the last time you saw a different version of grep, right? I mean, it's the foundations and your understanding of the principles and the concepts. That's what's really important. Like whether it's Terraform today, Open Tofu tomorrow, those
Yeah.
things are always, the tooling and the names and the versions are always going to change. But foundationally, understanding how the pieces fit together and
Right.
things like that. The other advice I would give, because again, I get asked this quite a lot, is like people are like, okay, so I know I want to go down this path. How do I, as reasonably as quickly as possible? How do I, what should I do to make myself, put myself in a position, competitive position to do well? So first of all, what I would strongly advise is make sure, as much as possible, try to understand, is this really the path you want to go down? Like, is this, do you think you'll enjoy, working as a DevOps engineer, as an MLOps engineer? The last thing you want to do is spend 6 months, 12 months, 2 years training yourself, and then finally, I don't know, getting the job in that position or domain or area, and then realizing after the first week that actually, you know what, you don't like doing this at all, but you used up all that time. So find out quickly, early on, whether even this is something you think you'll enjoy. And I know it's hard, because if you haven't done it before, you're not in that space. How would you begin to understand whether you're going to enjoy it or not? But it's just like anything. Sometimes, maybe you have to do an apprenticeship, like a 2-3 month internship. Maybe just watch webinars, just talk to folks who are already in the field, ask people, what do you do day to day, right? Just get a sense of it. It doesn't have to be completely deep dive, but get a sense of a feel for, okay, so you're spending half of your day coding, you're spending half of your day working with YAML files, configuration, is that something you think you're going to enjoy? You have to troubleshoot, debug, like site reliability engineers are constantly have to meet SLOs and SLAs, make sure that production environments and applications in production environments are up and running, and they have a certain quota they have to meet in terms of metrics and stuff. So just get a sense, like, is this something you're even going to remotely enjoy? So that's the first thing. Just find out, like, instead of, if you're going to invest that much time to get trained and go down that path, make sure that it's something you think you're going to at least reasonably enjoy. And again, I know it's hard to know ahead of time, but get a sense for it.
Okay.
The second thing, or the second thing, in the sense of like how I would position this to get yourself set up mentally and get prepared for it is there's I would kind of structure it in three buckets. I don't know if you folks are familiar with karate, but in karate, there's a very much three foundational pillars in karate that they teach you, at least in Shotokan. I don't know, I'm not familiar with the other styles, but in Shotokan karate, there's something called kihon, which are like the basics, punches, blocks, kicks. And then you have kata, which are like patterns. There's 26 in Shotokan karate, patterns that you do, which use the kihon, the basics and fundamentals. And then you have kumite. Kumite is like the actual freestyle sparring, right? But then kumite, to get good at kumite, you have to have like practice and use a lot of your kihon, the basics, and sometimes you bring in the kata. So similarly, in whether you're doing DevOps, MLOps, or whatever other things, the way I look at it is you kind of have your basic building blocks, like knowing the algorithms or the data structures in computer science, like very basic computer science stuff, like how does compute work? What are the hardware? How does networking? Those are to go back with the analogy, that's like your keyhole, the fundamentals and the basics of computer technologies and tech. Your kata, or like the patterns, this is where you're talking about architectural patterns that you would see commonly used in practice. So, for example, web applications typically have a very common pattern that gets used, like say 3-tier or whatever, right? You have your front end UI, then you have your API middleware, then you have your database layer. So, and then obviously all the other patterns, they kind of stem from that almost. And then in terms of the kumite, which is the free sparring, this is when, okay, what happens when you encounter a problem that you've never seen before, or it seems to you like it's very unique or you've never seen before, but really, the way I think about it is if you've seen if you've practiced your fundamentals of, computer science, tech, data structures, algorithms, those building blocks, and then you've also seen the common patterns, even if you encounter a new problem you've never seen before, you kind of use the patterns you've seen before and the fundamentals and the building blocks to solve and rationalize through the problems that you haven't seen yet. Okay, so that's the second thing is I recommend having that kind of three-pronged or three bucket at all times. Your fundamentals, building blocks, patterns, like in this case, it would be architectural use case patterns, and then get ready for encountering sort of scenarios that you haven't seen before and you're not familiar with. But if you go back to your fundamentals and your patterns that you have seen before, you can leverage those to sort of resolve and solve those new things. The third thing that I think is really important, and again, this is when I'm advising or mentoring folks who want to break into the space or want to keep upskilling, have a strong network. If you don't already have one, then start building it. So the point of the network is, and again, this is not just for DevOps or MLOps. It could be applicable to a lot of things, but your network is going to give you an inroad most of the time to, say, jobs or opportunities you wouldn't have had if you didn't have a network. Okay, so a lot of times when they post job ads online and things like that, it's a formal process. Like every company, that's just part of HR policy. You got to post these job ads and stuff like that. But I think most people know this. If you have a connection or a contact within a company, they're gonna give you advice on how to make yourself more competitive than folks who don't have that network in the company and in business. That's just the way it is. So you always want to have a strong network. In fact, the strong network a lot of times can be the difference between just having a strong resume and say a strong interview and then actually getting the job. Because all else equal, if you have a pool of 100 candidates and all of them are strong, all of them have a very similar resume, all of them have done very similar projects and have a similar portfolio, then it could be that network that really moves you over the hump and gets you through. So having that strong network and having a mentor, or being an apprentice, things like that can really be that strong pillar for a lot of folks. Okay. So having those three, I think, those three areas and can really push you further.
Sure, that's really good information. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. All right, folks. If there's no other questions, kind of at 1:45 now, I'll leave the link to the website here, but also I'll give you folks the link to our Discord server. So if you have any other questions you want to ask after the session, feel free to connect with us there. So this is the website, but here's the Discord server. All right, folks. So looking forward to you folks joining our Discord server, but also our community through the other channels as well. Stay in touch. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us there. You can also reach out to me specifically if you have questions about the DevOps program at my email address here. And I'll be waiting for you folks to reach out. All right. So in the meantime, take care. Have a great rest of the Friday and a great weekend. And for those folks who, because I saw some of you folks are from New York, enjoy the rest of the New York, Florida NHL playoff series. May the better team win. All right. Take care, folks. Have a good one.